Ladies and gentlemen, Saudi Arabia is a United States colony. I know that may sound ridiculous on its face. Saudi Arabia doesn't look very American, and they certainly push a very anti-American ideology. But a U.S. colony is what Saudi Arabia is. And I'm not talking colony in a neo-colonial, post-colonial, they've got a lot of McDonald's franchises sense. I'm talking colony in a full-throttle 19th century imperialist sense. You've heard of the British Empire, right? That empire's most important component was British India, which included modern India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Burma. They managed to control all of this territory with a tiny amount of British soldiers. They used a lot of strategies to do this, but one of the most important was client kingdoms. All of this territory was controlled by Britain, but a ton of it was controlled in the form of client kingdoms, with their own courts and even their own armies. Everybody knew they weren't really independent, but the polite fiction was carefully preserved. This allowed the inhabitants of those kingdoms to preserve some self-respect, and it kept the territory out of the hands of more powerful enemies of Great Britain. That is exactly the role that Saudi Arabia plays today. When people question why Saudi Arabia gets away with all the stuff it gets away with, the standard answers always point to Saudi power. We're told that it's the oil or all the money that the country piles back into the U.S. economy. But it's really Saudi weakness that makes them useful, not power. The country's silly ideology and infinitely corruptible ruling family makes it the perfect client kingdom. Its dozens of universities teach religion rather than nationalism or useful skills. The Saudi military barely knows how to use all the weapons it buys. Saudi Arabia has been a client kingdom for its entire modern existence. It was born because the British preferred them to the more powerful Ottomans and Persians. It has survived because the U.S. preferred it to Arab nationalists and the communists. It's a lot easier to keep a king and his family happy than it is to keep a real country happy. Saudi Arabia survived 9/11 because it successfully convinced the U.S. government that Iran presented a greater threat. That's true to a degree, but 15 years of following the Saudi path has made Iran much more powerful. It has also created ISIS and a range of other nasty organizations that carry out international terrorism in the name of Saudi ideology. Saudi Arabia is a client kingdom we no longer need. The negatives have outweighed the positives since the early 1990s. Communism hasn't been a real threat in almost 3 decades. Arab nationalism is essentially dead, and Iran would probably calm down if we just stopped invading them and their direct neighbors. Plus, whoever is in charge of the Middle East will be happy to sell us their oil. Actually, given the world's declining appetite for fossil fuels, whoever runs the Middle East will be desperate to sell us their oil. Saudi Arabia is a U.S. colony. It's not worth the cost. It's time to let it go. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. If you'd like to know more about the topic of this video and a whole lot more, I'd suggest you check out my new essay, Everybody's Lying About Islam. You can get it at the link here. Thanks.